When you start thinking about those things that you worry about, you might feel your stomach get upset, you might get dizzy, you might feel all sorts of physical symptoms, or you may not. You also might start with a physical symptom and then the worries kick in. So people experience their anxiety differently, but so many people are trying to navigate life with daily anxiety. So if you're trying to quiet your anxiety and you haven't yet found the solution, I am hoping I can help. I'm going to lead you through an understanding of what's happening and give you some exercises. Let's see if we can change this pattern. So cognitive behavioral therapy exercises give you actions you can take to begin to change this cycle of anxiety. Most people want to change how they feel. When I was a psychotherapist, people would come to me and be like, Barbara, I don't like feeling anxious. I want to change my feeling. But the key here is that it's nearly impossible to change those feelings if we don't first change a thought or behavior. So let me explain how this works. Your body, your physical body, has a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system. We need both. Both are great, but most of us in modern society have underdeveloped parasympathetic nervous systems. Our sympathetic nervous systems are in high gear. So your sympathetic nervous system, that's what wakes you up in the morning. That's what gets you moving. That's the part of your nervous system that responds to, I need to eat, I need to move, I need to go to work. We need the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is what calms everything down. That's what helps you fall asleep at night. The parasympathetic nervous system kicks in when we feel safe and calm and relaxed. And if we're never feeling that way, our parasympathetic nervous systems are not being exercised. So your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system coordinate with your brain, coordinate with your thoughts, and coordinate with your behaviors. We are all connected. So the cognitive behavioral cycle for anxiety can happen in a couple different ways. Let's say your anxiety starts with a worry, a thought. It might be a thought that was caused by an external situation. Let's say your partner gets mad at you or you crash your car. Something happens. And then your cognitive anxiety kicks in. Oh no, I crashed my car again. My insurance rate's going to go up. I'm not going to be able to get to work. Oh, all right. Now, some of those things could be real issues. But what's happening the second that your mind jumps into all those problems is you are hyper-stimulating your sympathetic nervous system. Your adrenaline and cortisol is flooding. Your old brain does not realize that these are problems that actually need sort of thoughtful, calm response. Your old brain thinks you gotta run away or fight or freeze. That's all your old brain thinks. So the second you kick into all of that, my partner's mad at me. Oh, they're gonna leave me. Oh, I can't stand it. Oh, what will I do? You are generating all of that and your sympathetic nervous system is just kicking in to help, but it's not really helping. So some people will say to me, no, my anxiety never starts with a thought. My anxiety starts with a panic attack. That's the first thing that happens is I go into panic. So let's say that's true. And your anxiety starts with a feeling in your body. And then your brain kicks in and is like, oh, I got to support a thought that confirms that feeling. So if my heart is racing, I need something to worry about. So I'm going to have a reason my heart is racing. Now, maybe that reason is I'm going to die, I'm having a heart attack, or maybe it is simply like a feeling of dread, something terrible is going to happen. But your feeling goes into a thought. And then both of these cycles, whether it started with the thought or your awareness is that it started with the thought, or if your awareness is that it started with the physical feeling, either way, those thoughts and feelings contribute to behavior. So just to keep going with the examples I was using, let's say you're worried your partner is upset at you and they're going to leave you. So therefore you're like, well, I may as well not do the dishes because why should I bother doing the dishes? They're going to leave me anyway. So you don't do the dishes, which makes your partner even more upset. And then maybe you don't even go to work because you feel so bad and you are just spiraling from this thought. So there are behaviors that are following that aren't helpful. So my first suggestion for you, if you are struggling with anxiety, is to really look into how does this cycle work for you? What's the trigger event? And what's the trigger event in you? So let's say there's the external trigger event, car crash, partner being mad, boss being mad, whatever the external trigger event. That actually doesn't cause your anxiety. I know that's really hard to take in, but it really is true that that trigger event isn't the cause. The cause is how you're responding to it. So where does your response start? Does your response start with a stomach ache? Does it start with a thought? What's the initial thing within your cycle? And then what does that lead to? So if it starts with a thought, what feelings does that lead to? What behaviors does it lead to? If it starts with a feeling, what thoughts does that lead to? What behaviors does that lead to? And then where can you intervene to change this cycle? So that is a summary of cognitive behavioral therapy, of the cognitive behavioral cycle. And it's really key to begin to understand this deeply. And the more you look at this, the more the whole process will begin to kind of slow down, which gives you more agency to choose a different response. And again, sometimes people feel like talking about it in this way is very dismissive of their problems. So this is not, I really want to be clear on that. Crashing a car, it's a big, big bummer. There's probably a number of things you're going to have to figure out. But the anxiety, the extreme anxiety, isn't helping you figure those out. We figure things out best when our whole brain is working, all of it, working together. When we're in the anxious state, our amygdala is driving the show. Oof. So no matter where your cycle starts, these are some things to think about and some exercises to do that will help no matter what. Know that your thoughts are just thoughts. We give our thoughts way too much importance. We all have kooky thoughts that pop into our head. Somebody with a lot of anxiety about intrusive thoughts is going to hold on to that kooky thought. Why did I have it? Why can't I get rid of it? And the more they do that, the more they're going to have it. But even if it's not a weird intrusive thought and it's simply a projection about a horrible thing that's going to happen, it's just a thought. So bringing in our observer mind, that's the part of our mind that kind of can be like, oh, look, there's my thought pattern. There's my CBT cycle happening again. And even if that observer mind is only 20% volume and the other is at the 80% volume, paying a little more attention to that observer is going to strengthen its voice. As that observer strengthens, you will begin to feel more distance from your thoughts. And that's a concept called cognitive diffusion. Cognitive diffusion is bringing together, I don't have to believe all my thoughts, and I can have some distance from them. So instead of saying, I'm having anxiety, you can say, I'm having an anxious thought about what's going to happen with my car. I'm having an anxious thought about what's going to happen with my partner. Simply changing how you're referring to this in your own head, so both externally if you want, but also mainly how you're talking about yourself. Putting it in terms of, I am having this thought, is going to help you begin to build distance from that thought. And if your cycle started with a physical pain that made you begin to go down the worry hole of having some kind of disease, instead of thinking, I'm having all this anxiety because I had that pain, change it into, I am having the thought that I might have a disease. I'm having this thought. It's not the truth. It's a thought. So that suggestion combines the observer mind and the cognitive diffusion, how you are thinking about your thoughts. Very important. The next suggestion I have for you is to think through cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions are very, very well proven distortions that almost all of us have to some extent. But a distortion means it's distorted. So cognitive distortions are things like catastrophizing. My car, I had this car crash, so everything in my life is going to fall apart. Projecting a horrible ending out into the future. So if you can begin to recognize, oh, I'm having a cognitive distortion on catastrophizing, it's going to help you, once again, build distance from the thought and not necessarily buy into it. So other cognitive distortions are black and white thinking. Everything is either all good or all bad. My partner's mad at me, so they must hate me. Is black and white thinking. No, your partner can be mad at you, still love you, still care about you, and not be happy with you today. There's a gray. Almost everything in the world is in between the black and white. So magical thinking, that kicks in with a lot of anxiety when we worry about what other people think and we start being like, oh, she's mad at me. She didn't text me back, so she must be mad at me. That's magical thinking. You don't know why she didn't text you back, but you project and you make something up and you believe your story. So there's a number of other ones, and I do talk about them in a couple of other videos. So I'm not going to go into all of them now, but as you begin to really analyze what kind of thought you're having, it gives you that first little angle to get in there and question it. So I'm going to give you an exercise that helps you strengthen that parasympathetic nervous system. Our brains are so powerful that if we imagine something calming and enjoyable, our body begins to feel it. So one thing I love to do is to be on a float and float in a pool or a body of water. So if you enjoy that, just bring that to mind right now. Really picture it, really breathe it in. And I'm going to give you a different thing to imagine if you don't like that. Do you like to be on a hammock in a backyard? Do you like to be in the woods? What do you like to do that makes you feel calm and peaceful? Is there a beautiful place you like to go? Whatever it is, bring it to mind. Really picture it. Closing your eyes can help. Really picturing it, breathing it in. Think about all the sensory impact of it, the smells, the sounds, all of that, and feel your body relax. Now, that is an exercise you can do every day. You could even do it a couple times a day. You don't have to be anywhere special. Your mind will do it for you, but that will help your parasympathetic nervous system strengthen, giving yourself those little it's almost like an oasis. It's almost like an oasis in the midst of all the chaos. You're going to give yourself a couple of minutes of an oasis where you can imagine being in a place you love to be, being calm and comfortable. So again, whether your anxiety is cognitive or somatic, that exercise will help. The next one I'm going to talk about, the third one, it's not quite as concrete, but learning to let yourself feel. What other emotions are there? If your anxiety is super cognitive, you might be all up in your head, right? I used to be like that actually at one point in my life. It was sort of everything went on here and I had no awareness, right? It's really important to begin to develop the awareness of what am I feeling in my body. Now, if you over focus on how you're feeling, which then causes anxiety, it's important to look for the other feelings. I hesitate to say really let yourself feel because unfortunately the interpretation of what you're feeling is causing your anxiety, but the anxiety might be covering up other feelings. Is it easier to worry about what kind of health problem I might have than it is to address a real concrete problem in my life or make a choice I kind of know I have to make, but I don't really want to make? Maybe this is the easiest thing for me to worry about. I'm not really sure, right? This complex stuff and everybody's a little bit different, but we have other feelings. We have sadness, we have regret, we have anger, all those feelings. It's good to feel them even if they don't feel great, but feeling all of our feelings then also gives us the space to feel the lighter feelings, the more joyful feelings, the fun ones. So I know that suggestion's a little more amorphous, but I want to share with you that one of the things that helped me the most in developing the observer mind for watching my thoughts and the ability to sit with my feelings was meditation. And I know a lot of people with anxiety will say, it's too hard. I can't meditate. And recovering from anxiety is not necessarily going to be easy. So I know you might have to do hard things. And I want to encourage you to learn meditation. But I also know that for people with anxiety, sometimes guided meditations are much easier than trying to learn to just sit on your own. Even though eventually I do think that pure mindfulness meditation on your own is what is going to help you the most with that strengthening of your observer mind and the ability to really feel what's going on with you. But to start, guided meditations are great. And I did recently join an app, so I will put the link below for an app called Aura Health. And they have a lot of guided meditations. They have guided sleep meditations, which I've actually really been enjoying. I think it's a super useful app. I actually joined it both to use it, and then I also do have some meditations that I am posting on there. Don't have too many on there yet, but I'm building up a library in there as well. So that might be something to consider, but there's also other meditation apps. Guided meditation can be really helpful with all this. All right, so the last exercise I want to share with you, which is very concrete, is that set aside time for yourself when you have anxiety. Set aside 5 to 10 minutes to write all your anxious thoughts down, one right after another. Write out the whole anxious story, or if it's just random anxieties, I'm anxious about this. Put them in an actual box. Could be just a little box that you like that you keep on your shelf. Just write things down, put it in some kind of box, put it on your shelf, put it in a closet. It gives them some type of container. And then as you go through your day, every time one of those anxious thoughts comes up, you can be like, going to put it in that box. And just imagine yourself pulling it out of your head, putting it in the box. So if you have a lot of repetitive, anxious thoughts that are about things you can't control, you know there's really no help to having them. Just pull them out of your head, in your mind, right? Imagine pulling them out of your head, putting them in the box. Do the same thing the next day. So you're giving yourself like a contained period of time to let yourself go into your worries, and the rest of the day focusing on something more positive. Now, for anxiety like OCD, I believe these tips will be helpful, but they probably won't be enough. It's a very specific type of anxiety, particularly if you have compulsions that go with the obsessive thoughts. The exercises and the treatment are a little bit different because not engaging in those compulsive behaviors is super important. So let me know if you're interested in a series on OCD or not. I haven't done one yet. Let me know if you're interested in it. Now, I want to share probably the most important thing to understand about anxiety, and you probably don't want to hear this, but there are two things that are really driving your anxiety. One is that you don't want to admit you are powerless over certain things. So life is uncertain. That's really hard for people with anxiety. I have a feeling a lot of people will get upset at me for saying that, but life's uncertain. It truly is. Denying it is not helping anybody. Along with that uncertainty, we do not have control over many things. We are powerless over many things. So spending our lives worrying about those things we can do nothing about because we don't want to accept the uncertainty is really ruining our lives. If I think through my life, like the most negative things that have happened to me, I never would have expected actually. And a lot of the things I worried about, if not pretty much all of them, never happened. Now again, I know accepting that can temporarily increase your anxiety, but it's really necessary. It really is. We don't have control over everything. Life is uncertain, and it is our attachment to a particular outcome that's really driving our anxiety. We think we know what's going to make us happiest in the future, and we get frustrated that we can't guarantee that's going to happen, and we can't guarantee it, partially because we're powerless over the outcome, and partially because life is uncertain, but we're so attached to it we can't let go, and our mind is just going to stick with it. So practicing with these concepts of it's okay that I'm powerless over some things. It's okay that I don't get the outcome I think I want, and life's uncertain. I know that's sort of ending on some harsh realities, but I do believe those lead to peace. If you like this video, please do give it a like, and if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe, and I'll see you next week.